Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries, and after a short absence we're returning to our Matters of Fate series, and in this 8th video we're going to be looking at chase scenes. Now, chases are a regular part of RPGs, whether you're trying to escape the clutches of a villain or whether you're chasing after an antagonist to retrieve a doohickey or administering a severe ass whooping to the bad guy. Whatever the reason, most games will at some point or other feature a chase scene. Fate is no exception to this. Now, there are a few different ways you can represent chases in Fate. In fact, there are probably more than a few given the Fate system's versatility, but I'm going to focus on what I consider to be the main methods of representing them. If you've got any alternatives, please, as always, feel free to post them in the comments section below. I'd love to see what your ideas are. So, suggestion number 1 is that you can use the challenge system. Now, if you don't know what the challenge system is, then you might want to check it quickly in your Fate rulebook or watch our video that we recently did on it. But you could run the chase as a simple opposed role between the chaser and the chasee. This has the advantage of being very simple and also very quick to resolve. If the chase isn't a massive dramatic focus for your story, then you might want to go with this approach. However, it's not particularly exciting, to be honest, either relying on the GM or the player to pad it out with description, or just quickly moving past the chase, getting it over with and cracking on with the rest of the story. Suggestion number 2 is you could use the contest rules, and you could easily run a chase as a standard contest with each side making opposing rolls and creating advantages as per a normal contest situation. If the people being chased accumulate 3 victories first, then they escape. If the chasers get to 3 first, then they catch up with their target. This is an absolutely fine way of doing it. There's nothing wrong with it. It adds more of a competitive edge to a chase than the original first simple method we mentioned, but it doesn't draw it out too much. This is the mechanism I tend to use in my own games when I want a chase that has a little bit of drama to it, but I don't really want it to be the major focal point of the session, and it's perfectly effective in that regard. Now, the third and final suggestion for this video is to use a chase track. And this is a method that is suggested in the Fate Toolkit. And the way this works is you create a stress track for the chase. The people being chased are trying to empty the stress tracker whilst their pursuers are trying to fill it. The length of the stress track that you start with is based on how much session time you want the chase to take up. 10 is normally a good number. Less than this and you tend not to gain the benefits of this system, whereas if you sort of go to the other end of the scale and you're up nearer the 20 mark, then you're probably going to create a chase that'll suck up an awful lot of your session time. The number of stress boxes that are checked off at the start also determines how close the pursuers are to catching their target. 5 is the normal number, which starts in the middle of an average stress track. Increasing the amount of boxes ticked at the start makes things harder for the people being chased, whilst decreasing the amount of boxes ticked at the start makes it easier for them to escape. Once you've got your stress track, each side takes it in turn to make overcome rolls to increase or decrease the stress tracker. What these rolls are actually based on, i.e. what skills or approaches, if you're using Fate Accelerated, should be, are based on the narrative and the obstacles and challenges that the chasers are having to avoid, dodge or overcome. For example, perhaps on the 3rd round of a rooftop chase, perhaps they have to jump over a gap between buildings. Some sort of athletics-based test would seem appropriate for that. When you've rolled your check, if you fail a roll, then your opponent can create a boost that benefits them, or they can move the stress track 1 check in their direction. If you tie, then you may move the stress track 1 in your direction of choice that favours you, but if you do so, your opponent will gain +1 on their next roll. If you succeed, then you move the stress track 1 check in your direction. If you succeed with style, then you move the stress track 2 checks in your direction, or you can choose to move it only 1 check and take a boost that you can use against your opponent with your next roll. Now, each side should only have a single person roll each turn, and this is normally the person with the highest relevant skill, based on whatever the challenge is. However, the GM should work hard to ensure that the skill rolls required vary so that everyone has a chance to shine in a chase scene. When the stress track is full or empty, then the chase has been resolved and the consequences of that can be played out. This method is great for adding more emphasis on chases in games, but it does require the GM to do a little more work coming up with obstacles and relevant roles, either in advance or on the fly if you're comfortable with that. It also potentially takes up more time to resolve a chase using these rules. However, if you do want a chase to be a focal point of one of your sessions or a climactic scene, then you may want to consider using these rules from the toolkit. They can also be found online in the Fate system reference document, and I'll put a link to that down below in the description. So there you are, that's a brief look at how chase scenes can be run using Fate. As I said, if you've got any suggestions yourself, please feel free to let me know, put them in the comments, hit me up in Google Plus as normal, etc. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Matters of Fate. You'll consider subscribing to our channel. You can do that by clicking on the red dice. And until we see you next time, take care and happy gaming.